Paradisio a reference, as it is saying that I picture myself a lovely river such as that on those banks Dante describes. Matilda gathers flowers, which ever flows. Al Bruno Bruno solto I ombre por porticio chia mia ragir non la sino sol Eva ni luna. In Paradiso, that the book is illustrating the love affair of the mother that died in Matilda. The mother didn't live as long either, and it was in the book had never been closed after 16 years, which she had servants. He had servants in the house protecting the house, so that's kind of weird. And the thing about this is one of their falling outs between the unnamed father in Matilda is probably related to how strict Godwin, the biological father of Mary Shelley, who was a harsh Calvinist, and that's why there was a falling out. Mary Shelley's character, Matilda, approached the father, which is unnamed, and started approaching him about the relationship. And it wasn't up to the daughter to approach the father like this. It was inappropriate. It was harsh Calvinist, right? The father's law is the law. So even if it's incest, in this age, you have the woman is property till she's married to another person at age 21. That's why the real Godwin, the biological father, didn't want the Percy Shelley relationship to happen. That was, stealing property for. Since she did this around 18, 19 years old. She left home and she wrote Frankenstein at 19. So that's what's wrong with this.
Matilda is a book by Mary Shelley about a father and a daughter who leave each other after the mother dies. The father leaves. The aunt and the niece begin. The aunt is very distant with the niece and eventually hires a nanny, but the nanny gets fired. The aunt decides to send the niece to public school or some private school and realizes that she might collect a non-British accent, and then she goes under private tutoring. The most motherly thing the aunt does is teaches her how to play the harp. After 16 years the father comes back. The aunt dies, and then the father's life with his daughter begins that we know at least over 2 years.
I do not ask your pity. You must and do abhor me, but pardon me, Matilda, and let me not your thoughts follow me in my banishment with unrelenting anger.
Mary Shelley's father says to Matilda, "At least you're not a nymph of the forest." The word nymph is sometimes referred to as a Greek goddess, and some nymphs are the daughter of the Greek god Zeus, which leads to confusion of the word nymph. Achilles had a mother who was a nymph. Nymph means slut or prostitute or highly sexualized women. Mary Shelley refers to the term universal mother. A goddess worship is like a eternal love of Mary, the mother of God, in the Catholic churches, or the goddess of Hindu like Kali, or Asian goddesses and African goddesses are all universal. Still, a nymph also was worshipped in the Archaic period. and they found temples that help them with worship. Nymph is a happy spirit.
The Invisible Girl is a book by Mary Shelley that was almost a collaborative effort that might have come from a barkeep of some person she met in whatever the 19th century shopping malls was of this time. She is talking about the book in terms of it just being a comic strip. It is a story that is transcribed to her, and then she's embellishing on it in some I have heard say, observed the younger sailor, it is burnt by the ghost of a maiden who lost her sweetheart in these parts, he being wrecked and his body found at the foot of the tower. She goes by the name among us of the Invisible Girl.
Matilda is about, in the second part, a woman who lives like on the beach or in the woods and doesn't have many servants. She has one servant and she ends up living a while at the beach. But then she gets very sick and is given digitalis, which is a type of opioid, and eventually dies. So then in the next book that Mary Shelley writes, called The Invisible Girl, the woman goes off into the woods and is gone for 6 months to a year, and then comes back and gets to live an imagined life of what she wishes to live. So Matilda never really has a happy ending at all. She never finds a lover. She had a lover that she corresponded with in the book called Matilda, but never found a lover. Where at least the Invisible Girl is thrown out of her house, and she seems to be buying bread for people, and then comes back and kind of tends the lighthouse, but gets to come back. But some answers are in the Immortal book called The Mortal Immortal, which is about an alchemist, and this is another Mary Shelley book. His life is a human life that is attached to his wife, and it keeps the alchemist human. Even though he doesn't age, he took the elixir at about 20 years old, and now he's over 300 years old. But he doesn't lose his humanity because I guess his remembrance of his wife. So he only drinks half the elixir, so they think that he's not going to live that he's not going to live 1,000 years or really be immortal. So he's actually just a long-lived. So he doesn't have fear of dying, so the pain of love is gone. And then Mary Shelley is kind of saying, okay, so it's okay to love because now the pain is gone, and she doesn't have. And the male character doesn't have as much abandoning issues as Mary Shelley's women characters do. So, should Mary Shelley be a transgendered hero maybe?
Aside when Mary left home with Percy Shelley. Mary Shelley says she wants to love but cannot love because she can't take the pain of love. All male relationships are like her Matilda and her father abandoning her and killing himself. She would have liked to have come back like in The Invisible Girl and have everything be okay again, but that didn't happen in The Mortally Immortal and still have a life and not have any pain, so there was never a moment like in Frankenstein that she goes off into the raft and she lives happily ever after. The Invisible Girl has a happy ending. But the Invisible Girl is not Mary Shelley, it is Fanny, her half-sister. So this is the thoughts of Mary Shelley. A life without pain and is carefree and has some love in it is what she was looking for in her works.